this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Finished everything in the grow room and it's still relatively early in the day, so I thought I'd have a kitchen session and sort out these 3 new orchids. I've been so busy today, it's just dawned on me I forgot to drink coffee. Need a fix. No, I'm not that bad. This is just the getting out of the pot and see what we've got session. I'll sort out what I'm going to do about potting them after. So this one's very loose in its pot. A lot of that will be because it's relatively dry, so not a big deal. But what I have got to go careful of is I know there's some new roots. And old roots I don't mind breaking, but when there's new ones just starting, they're precious. You never know, you might not get any more for a while. That's not a bad little root system, not bad at all. So these roots are viable. Those few in the middle aren't. That's the oldest ones off the oldest part of the plant. That is typical. There's nothing unusual there. Sheaths come off when I get the chance, always. A leaf that's not effectively attached, so there's no point in leaving that. What are we doing then? That's not bad, yeah. I mean, the new growths are just starting their new roots, so this is a good time. This has caught this one nicely. As I say, I want this spongy stuff off. But apart from that, that's not a bad root system. We'll probably just get the small scissors and take that centre piece out, wherever they are. I know I haven't sterilised them, but then I haven't cleaned the bottom of the plant up yet. So panic not. Yeah, that's just the old base of the oldest pseudo bulb, so those roots are not viable. Just as well make some space for new ones to grow in. Yeah, so quick run under the tap. As I say, I don't mind leaving a few bits of older bark on, but I'm not too keen on spongy type stuff, whatever that stuff is. That's going to come off better under the tap, quite honestly, rather than poking around now. Yeah, so well, that's not a bad little root system. These new growths have not been getting fully hydrated. They've got a few concertina leaves on, but they've still got quite a bit of growing to do, and the newest leaves near the top of a new growth on an oncidium type, which is what this is, are the ones that will always grow biggest and bestest. So they're the ones it pays not to have the concertina leaves on. Doesn't affect the plant, quite honestly. It's nothing more than aesthetics, if that's the right word. Yeah, they don't look so good, but at the end of the day they can still photosynthesize on the surfaces, so they still work, they just don't look so pretty. So yeah, give that one a clean off. That's going to push on nicely, I think. It's got, as I say, new roots coming out the base of both of the new growths, so that's going to take nicely. That's one. Alright, so this little Cattleyas got some green root tips in here. It's held in with one of those wooden skewers, which hopefully will just pull out. And there again, it might not. No, I'll go and get the pliers. You know, often with things that are a bit tight, it's nothing more than grip. You know, fingers don't grip things quite so good. Are you going to come out or not? Or are you going to just be a nuisance? I think it's going to be a nuisance, so we'll get the cutters. I don't want the stake in effect, I just want it out the flipping way. So if we cut it there, and then again there without knocking any root tips, that should just, I was going to say lift out, it's going to fall out, isn't it? Now it's lucky that's got some new roots, because the old roots ain't so good. That new growth is incredibly low on the plant. It's a very strange place for a Cattleya to push out a new growth. Nonetheless, it's got one. That's the important bit. Yeah, I'm not gonna poke around too much here, on the grounds that once this is under the tap, it's going to come off a lot easier. Some very compacted dead roots in there. That's like a solid lump. But they will probably go in the pot anyway. Now, where was that other? I'm sure there was a sign of an, yeah, there's a sign of an eye at the base of that pseudo bulb that may push on. That new growth is incredibly low on the plant, incredibly low. So I will have to take great care to make sure there's some air around the base of it. Yeah, it's an unusual place for a new growth to come out, but we'll see what we can do. Give that one a clean up and a run under the tap. As I said, I don't want to go mad on that because there are new roots. Strangely enough, the new roots are under this, which to all intents and purposes looks like the latest growth. It's also bloomed, yeah? So this is an odd place to put a new growth out. Strange. But it's highly likely that this latest growth here, with the new roots, will push up a new growth as well. Give it time. Depends how long ago that spike was taken off. Now this one's, this name here, I had a look on this. Now once upon a time I had what was one of my favourite Cattleyas, which was Caribbean Dawn, Dark Star or something it was called, but the Caribbean Dawn bit was the intense red. Now I lost that orchid, and going back on the history of this hybrid, Caribbean Dawn is in it. So I'm hoping that's going to be a nice intense red. Anyway, in the sink for you. Alright, what else have we got then? This one, this is the one with the dirt on it. It's not too bad, although it's got moss in it. Oh. It amazes me that anybody who knows anything about orchids plants a Cattleya in a solid mass of sphagnum. It's not how they grow. I can only think that if you are in an incredibly warm place where you've got the heat, it matters less. But in somewhere like the UK, having that amount of moisture around Cattleya roots heading into the winter when it's going to be cooler has just got disaster written all over it, quite honestly. It'll stay wet too long. You're going to enclose Cattleya roots like that. They need to dry fast. Somehow or other they need to dry fast, and that, as you could see in my environment, would not dry fast. Certainly not in the winter. Okay, most of that will have to wash off under the tap because it's quite compacted. So we get the old tap down in there and force it off. But this is a nice plant. It has got a new growth as well as the two latest growths there. And there are eyes in other places. So there's not a lot of sign of new roots on this, but a lot of these roots are a bit soggy. But I don't go mad cutting old Cattleya roots off anymore. I've been caught before where you think you've cut all the old roots off and you've missed a couple. And then you look round 2 or 3 weeks later and the couple that you missed have actually put some new shoots out. So I don't go too mad cutting every root in sight off anymore. I mean, when they pull off like that, obviously they've had it. But we'll give that a clean up and see how we go. I'm going to have a sink full of rubbish, aren't I? Right, I'll be back. Sorry, I'll be back. Okay, we'll do this one first. This one's actually got quite a few good growing tips. I'm not sure that new growth's going to make it. It looks incredibly weak, but it has got eyes near the base. So if this one fails, it should push out again. But I'm relatively confident that this is the growth that's going to shoot out next, if not that one or both. So I need to get that in the pot so that this side of the plant has got room to move. The chances of anything coming out off the really old ones are slim, but nonetheless there's an eye down there. You never know with Cattleyas. This has all the hallmarks of a division, doesn't it? Look, slice. Somebody's just gone slice and taken that bit off. Never mind, that's the bit that can head towards the back of the pot. But what I do need this to be is high enough in the pot that the wire will get a hold and pull everything down tight. So I need a bit more in the bottom, just to bring it up a bit. And then those roots have got something to get down into that's deep. And I left that one on, but I've changed my mind. It was stopping me putting the plant down in the pot. Yeah, there's no green inside that anyway. Right, so I need that about there. God, I've got a really solid mass of roots there, stopping that getting down in. I think I'm going to trim a bit more. No, there's actually live ones in there. Leave it alone. Don't fiddle. Just wiggle the bark a bit, that'll get it down in deeper. Right, so that wire is going to go across that rhizome and out through that hole. So that's actually good enough. Right, where's me bark? This is just a gentle with Cattleyas. I'm going to tip it slightly over this way. I want the new roots to have some bark around them. Notice I didn't say in the bark. The whole idea with the... what the hell's that? It's a rock. It's an Orchids rock, that is. Yeah, so it's the wire that does the work here until the roots start migrating away from the plant and getting hold of bits of bark and, you know, getting hold of the pot and everything like that. I only want the bark resting. I don't want any pressure. I want air all around that plant. So it's actually standing up on its own. I'm surprised. But that's it. I don't want that any tighter than that. I want it loose but firm in the pot. Well, that's the wire's job. That's the trouble with this stiff wire, is trying to get it in the right place. Wobbles the plant around. Oh, and of course I've done the classic like I normally do. I've forgotten that I need the wire to come out of that hole. And it's better to do that before you put all the bark in. Right, so if you go, if I put a little kink on the end, and then I should be able to find the hole. Gotcha. This stiffer wire is a bit of a pain to get to bend. Let's get that right where I want it, and then pull it tight, and then pull it a little bit tighter with the pliers. It's actually quite firm as it is, but I want that tight. Put a kink in it, and then I can just clip that over the top of the pot so that I haven't got spiky bits sticking up. Catch my fingers on. There we go. Now I've put a bit more bark back in around that nice root there. I'm going to let that root float. We'll let that one make its way across the bark, and just enough bark to support that new growth. I've got a feeling it's been knocked. It wobbles right at the base. I don't think that's going to make it, but it has eyes at the base of it. The plant will probably trigger that bit's been damaged and chuck out one of the eyes right there. So that's that one done. Put the tag in. Which one was it now? That one. All these floppy tags don't like going in holey clay pots. Right, that's that one done. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, this one's a bit big for its pot, but it'll just have to grow over the sides and just do its thing like that. It has a natural path through there for the wire, and I'll have to go careful because there's actually a new eye that looks like it might push in that area too. And on closer inspection, this has actually got several new growths, not just that obvious one there. There are some signs of new growing tips. But as I said, I've been caught before where you leave a few old roots on that you think are dead, and you trim them off, and then you find that they branch out. So I don't go too mad cutting off old roots, not anymore. I used to cut a lot off. But see, there's a root that the velamen is not good, but the little root inside is still viable. That, where's the camera? Yeah, that on the end of my finger can still work and hydrate the plant even without velamen on it. It's doomed. I mean, it won't last forever like that, but farther up it could push out a branch because it's still live. You can see some of the ones I've left. That's actually a live root. The velamen's been gone simply because it was too flipping wet in that moss. But anyway, this one's just going to sit on the top and have some bark placed around the edge. There's going to be a lot of air around this plant. It's got quite a lot of roots that I think are going to branch out. So again, I pre-wired it because this stiff wire is difficult to manoeuvre, and that's got to go down and out through that hole. The holes in these small clay pots are actually not clean, so they're very difficult to get the wire to poke through. I usually end up having to widen them slightly, and that's cost me one pot because I was merrily stirring the screwdriver in the hole to try and widen it, and the pot cracked. So I'm a bit more cautious now. All I want is for this to be sat firm on that bark, like that. Big long spiky end. I'll just give it a little tug and make sure it is secure, nice and tight. And then again, it will be nice to find somewhere else to put that wire, but you know, without the little holes in the top of the pot, the only place really is over the rim and then down on the inside. Just tuck the end out of sight. Does mean the wire comes up the side of the pot, but that's just how it has to be. Right, and then I'm not putting too much in, just putting some round the surface, not much at all. I want the base of the plant to not be buried in the moss, in the bark. I got moss on my brain because there was so much in this plant. I blocked my sink actually washing this plant off, and I ended up with 6 inches of water in the sink, and the sink bunged up. And that's not an ideal way to grow a Cattleya, it really isn't, or certainly not in this country anyway. Teasing some around the edges. You think if this was on a mount, a lot of the roots would end up being in the air. I think that's going to do it. As I said, I don't, the log. I don't want bark around the base of the plant where the new growths are. I want those to come out into air and get going. So that's it. It's nice and firm. It's not wobbling at all. And some of what look like older roots are going to branch. They are, trust me. Been playing with Cattleyas long enough now to know the signs of what really is a truly dead root and what is just rotted velamen with this viable root still inside. And if you compact them in tight moss like that and shut the air out, that's what happens. So, you know, there was a cause. Hopefully it won't do it again now. So that's that one done. Right, let's have a go at the Oncidium thing then. Okay, last one for today then. Now, this one I would prefer a smaller pot, but I haven't got one. So again, there's quite an amount of crocking in the bottom. Now, the idea being this is an air cone pot, yeah, so that's got a hollow in there, and with the chunky bark on the bottom, there is a drying mechanism that will take place from the bottom up. So this larger bark in the bottom of the pot shouldn't stay wet. And this has got a good root system that should fill this pot quite quickly. So the fact that it's quite a large pot, I'm not overly worried about, but I'm just going to pot it a little deeper so that it won't be in stacks of media. It'll be in some. So I'm just wiggling it around. I've switched to medium bark now. My medium bark, this Orchids bark, has actually got quite a lot of small pieces in it. So it's almost like a mixture of medium and small bark. It has got some small pieces in it, which for these type of roots should work well. I'm wiggling around here because this is effectively the back, and I need some bark down there so that when I push the plant over to the back, I haven't got to get some bark down in that gap. And my two new growths near the centre of the pot, they've got plenty of room to move then. I've got new root tips here, so I need to go careful. A few air gaps with Oncidium roots is not the end of the world, but I would rather they were snug. So there's quite a bit of wiggling to do, watching the side of the pot to make sure I'm not getting any large gaps, because once you get the bark up near the top of the pot, trying to deal with large air gaps is not very easy without forcing the bark down and ending up crushing the roots. They're pretty sturdy Oncidium type roots. I keep calling this an Oncidium. It's actually a Beallara, but it's got Oncidium in it. I would suggest looking at the blooms. There's an amount of Odontoglossum in this cross as well, as Oncidiums do not normally come in the sort of colours that this is, or the shape, whereas Odontoglossums do. So do Miltonias. So that, you know, whatever's in this cross is probably a mixture. Beallara is a made-up name, effectively. It's not a true genus. So it's an intergeneric in the Oncidium Alliance, and that, quite honestly, is good enough. I don't need to know any more than that. Apart from the fact I really do like the blooms. Now I've got a problem here because the oldest pseudo bulb is a bit buried, so I'm going to hook some of the bark out so that has got more air around the base of that oldest pseudo bulb. I don't want it buried. I don't mind it sitting a little below because there's a lot of air in this media anyway, so it shouldn't rot. And then to make sure it's firm in the pot, all I do is press down the edges, which pushes a lot of the roots back towards the centre. They will then push out to find the side of the pot. And why roots do that, I don't know, but they do. It's got to be something to do with heading for the light. But then others would say roots go off in random directions and end up wherever they end up. And there is nothing logical about it. They're not heading for the dark or the light. They come out from the base of the plant and head off in whatever direction they're pointing. That sort of makes a bit of sense. This is still loose in the pot at the moment. That's better. Not brilliant, but better. It'll water in nicely. I've still got too much bark around that old pseudo bulb. There we go then, that's that one done. The two new growths are sitting on rather than in the media. And the new roots will push straight into the media. You can just see them setting off down into the underworld. So, right, that's that one done. It's a little afternoon's work. See, in the video it just looks like I did these one after the other. Nah. Lots of gaps in between doing other things. They just get joined up when I put the video together. So this one will now get a good watering. Yeah? The two Cattleyas won't. I'll probably leave those a minimum of a day and possibly 2 days. They were well hydrated by washing the plants off. What do Cattleyas want? Wet dry cycle. So if I've absolutely soaked the root base, what there is of it, I need it to dry. So if I water that now, it's like a double soaking. So the Cattleyas can be allowed to sit there for a day, maybe 2, yeah, and then they can be watered, whereas this one needs a good soak now. So there we go then, that's those 3 sorted out. What I'm going to do with the giant dendrobium, I haven't made my mind up yet, and I've done enough for 1 day. So I've watered it because it was very dry, and that's as much as I'm going to do with that today, apart from look at it and think. Well, perhaps not so much thinking, it's getting late in the day, maybe tomorrow. But yeah, that one's just on hold until I decide what I'm going to do. and as I said, I haven't made my mind up yet. Right, thanks for dropping by. See you again.